Shalom, shalom. This is Yair Davidiy speaking from the land of Israel. We represent Brit-Am, Hebrew nations, an organization and a movement that analyzes the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes. We have found the lost 10 tribes amongst Western nations, and that is what we do. Research the subject. We use biblical sources. We use the Bible, the Hebrew Bible. We use linguistic sources, we use rabbinical texts, traditions, we use linguistics, mythology, legends, all kinds of fields of study, whatsoever has something that can shed light on the subject. We have found the lost 10 tribes to be among Western nations. The lost 10 tribes today are among Western nations. We've written quite a few books on the subject. Our first and most famous book is The Tribes. This is The Tribes. And this work is quite important. In the back of this book we have an appendix where we list all of the biblical proofs and we give the relevant verses. And this present talk we propose to go quite quickly through these verses and to quote them and to talk about a few of them. And some of you have already received this information in the past, but it's always worthwhile to go over it, to repeat it. I'm certain there will be things here that you have not heard of previously, will be new to you. And I wrote the work, I brought the proofs together, and I've gone over them hundreds of times, and even I find much utility in going back over them, because they are important. This is the truth. This is the biblical truth. The Bible tells us where the lost 10 tribes are. And this proof from the Bible is confirmed by secular sources, by other fields of study. And it is added to and enhanced and even clarified. But nevertheless, the basic source is the Bible. The Bible is where the proof is. The Bible is the Word of God Almighty. And He is telling us where the lost 10 tribes are. And who are the lost 10 tribes? The lost 10 tribes are the majority in the demographic sense of the people of Israel. Originally we had 12 tribes of Israel. They divided into two different sections. The smaller section is the section of Judah, the kingdom of Judah, which had within it the tribes of Judah and Benjamin and most of Levi and the representative minorities of all of the other tribes. It had the task of learning the Bible, of keeping the law and developing the law. Perhaps that was the most important task, and that was its task, and this is what it had to do. Where the 10 tribes were separate, the 10 tribes were separated, and they were destined to be lost, to be taken away by the Syrians and exiled and lose their ancestry, but they stayed together, and they migrated from one place to another. Along different paths of migration, after splitting up, they reassembled, converged, one could say, in the same areas, in these areas of Western Europe, where they are now to be found, and their offshoots overseas, in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the USA, and other places, and also along the coast of Western Europe. That is where the lost 10 tribes are. We do not say that everyone in those areas is descended from Israelites. We are saying that is where the lost 10 tribes are. And the lost 10 tribes have left their imprint on the national identities of the nations in question. They have made their mark there, and they are to be found there. And in some cases they may be the majority of the population or a substantial minority. We don't really know. We only go according to what the Bible tells us, and we know that that is where the lost 10 tribes are. And other questions may be considered at a later date, or after more evidence, more information has been brought together. In the meantime, we are showing that that is where the lost 10 tribes are, and that is what we concentrate upon doing. As we said, we work towards the research, finding where the lost 10 tribes are. After that, we also work towards revelation, revealing it, propagating this knowledge, spreading it, making it known as much as possible. And ultimately, according to the prophecy, this will bring about a reconciliation between Judah, that is the Jewish people, and the lost 10 tribes of Israel. But the first step is research, finding where they are and proving it, and bringing more and more evidence, going and not forgetting the evidence that has already been put together, and showing how one piece of evidence clarifies and sheds light on another, and it dovetails together with it. So we're now going to go through some of the proofs, and this is what we are doing. We have divided the proofs under subheadings. We have geography, recognizable symbols, historical behavior, present day situation, and blessings. We have ancestral names in general, the ancestral names that are still present in some cases, and historically not so long ago were still used, that are found in the Bible, that help us identify specific groups as being specific tribes and sub-tribes and clans within the tribes. And we also have national characteristics. So these are the divisions, the geographical proofs, recognizable symbols of the tribes, historical behavior that help us identify groups as belong to the tribes of Israel, their present-day situation as described by the Bible, which help confirm the identification with peoples as belong to the tribes of Israel, the blessings, the prophesied blessings that have come to pass, and which definitely identify these people as belong to the tribes of Israel, and national characteristics of the people in question, which also confirm the blessings and confirm the prophecies. Confirm the prophecies and identification. It was prophesied the lost in tribes will be at the ends of the earth. It says Isaiah 24:16, therefore glorify the Lord in the dawning light. That is a Brit-Am in Hebrew, literally the fires, the name of the Lord God of Israel, in the coastlands, in the isles of the sea. From the ends of the earth we have heard songs, glory to the righteous. Now in this section we have three proofs within this short verse of Isaiah. It talks about the Brit-Am, the fires, in the isles, the name of the Lord God of Israel, from the ends of the earth. We have fires, and we have isles of the sea, and we have ends of the earth. Ends of the earth are the geographical extremities of the lands, and that is where we find most of the lost ten tribes to have been. We find the lost ten tribes in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa, in the British Isles, in North America, and also along the coastlands of Western Europe, that is in Scandinavia, Holland, parts of France, and so on. And all of these areas are the edges to geographical extremities of the continental land masses, and that is what ends of the earth means. And this description, this expression concerning the whereabouts of the lost ten tribes is found quite often, especially in the book of Isaiah. We find it in Isaiah 24:16, in Isaiah 26:15, in Isaiah 41:8-9, in Isaiah 43:6, and Isaiah 49:6. Now this section that we have just read, Isaiah 24:16, has given us three different proofs in one verse. It talks about the fires of the sea, glorifying the God of Israel in the fires of the sea. What are the fires of the sea? The fires of the sea in the isles, at the ends of the earth. So we have the British Isles. The British Isles are at the ends of the earth, even now, even according to present-day geography. And in classical times, when Isaiah spoke, he was talking according to classical concepts, classical terminology. They consider the British Isles to be at the ends of the earth. And there were fires there. The Celtic people, or the people who lived there, assumedly Celtic civilization, had the practice of lighting fires on the hilltops, and these fires were seen out to sea by ships passing by, and this is what the Isles of the Sea, that is the British Isles, were known for. So here we have an identifying point. We also have the ends of the earth referred to in Isaiah 41:8-9, where he talks about the descendants of Abraham, my friend, from the ends of the earth. And also we have Isaiah 49:6, where the 10 tribes are referred to as the preserved ones of Israel, a light to the Gentiles, at the ends of the earth. We have already mentioned isles. Isles also mentioned in other verses in connection with the lost ten tribes, such as Isaiah 24:15, Isaiah 49:6, Isaiah 69, and in Jeremiah 31:9-11. Jeremiah 31:9-10 refers to Ephraim, am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord of nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, he that scattered Israel will gather him, and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. We also have thighs, peninsulas, coastlands, in Jeremiah 31:8, connected with the lost 10 tribes, and all the Israelite nations are pertinent to that description. We also have the lost 10 tribes connected with Tarshish. Tarshish was a land. It is described in Genesis chapter 10. One of the sons of Yavan. Yavan from Japheth was known as Tarshish. Also, we have the name Tarshish applied to one of the sons of Benjamin, the Israelites. And Tarshish apparently was applied to different places. Two of the major places known as Tarshish were that in Tarsus, known as Tarsus in southeast, was now southeast Turkey and Cilicia, and also in what is elsewhere known as Tartessus, to the Greeks Tartessus, or to the Phoenicians to Tarsus, which is near the present-day site of Gibraltar. And there, in ancient times, was an important city. And also they had a lot of mining operations there. They mined silver, they mined tin, metals that were very important in ancient times. They still are, but even more so. Tin was used in the manufacture of bronze. Bronze was a major metal. Bronze is an alloy of tin and copper, both of which metals were present in the British Isles and also in Spain. And in Spain, they had a place known as Tarshish. Spain was also connected with the British Isles. Tarshish was also connected with the British Isles. And in rabbinical terminology, they often understood the term Tarshish to apply to the Atlantic Ocean region in general. And that is what they interpret the Bible to say. The ships of Tarshish were ships travelling over the Atlantic Ocean. And we have the ships of Tarshish being referred to in connection with the return of the last 10 tribes in the end times. In other words, ships plying the Atlantic Ocean will be involved with the return of the lost 10 tribes. So therefore the lost 10 tribes must be in that general area. The Atlantic Ocean is the sea that between the British Isles and the western coast of Europe, and the American continent. In Isaiah 69 it says, surely the coastlands shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish will come first, to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, to the name of the Lord your God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. We also have other points confirming the western location of the lost 10 tribes. The lost 10 tribes were to be to the west of the land of Israel. They were also found elsewhere. They were also found in South Africa and in the southeast from the land of Israel, in Australia and New Zealand. But their mother countries were to the west of the land of Israel. That is where they are mainly located. And we find in Isaiah 24:14, they shall lift up their voice, they shall sing for the majesty of the Lord, they shall cry aloud from the sea, Yam, also meaning west in the Hebrew language. It says in Isaiah 11:10, they shall walk after the Lord, that he will roar like a lion when he roars, then his sons shall come trembling from the west. And elsewhere in Isaiah 49:12, it talks about both the west and the north. It says, these shall come from afar, these from the north and the west. And then it said, these from the land of Sinim. And elsewhere we are shown by the land of Sinim, the area of New Zealand and Australia is being referred to. Jeremiah speaks of the lost 10 tribes being in the north. Jeremiah 3:18, 31:6-10. There he speaks of Ephraim, of peoples returning, and how they will return. And returning from the isles afar off, and the ingathering of Israel in the end times. As we said, the land of Sinim means Australia, and this is referred, and New Zealand, and is referred to in Isaiah 49:12. It means Australia and New Zealand, and is referred to in Isaiah 49:12. Not only do we have all of these different places, it should be remembered there are different places and different characteristics of the places are being mentioned. but we are referring to one entity or one ethnic grouping of peoples. So we have to find a grouping of peoples who are related to each other, who came from the same sources, from the same origins, for whom all of these different characteristics apply at one and the same time. In other words, they have to be in the north, they have to be in the north and the west, they have to be in an area associated with the Atlantic Ocean, and they also have to have some of them linked with the land of Sinim, that is where Australia and New Zealand now are. And there's only one group of peoples which fit all of these characteristics, and we have more, we have a lot more along the same lines. So as we frequently emphasise, all of the different proofs have to fit in, have to be applicable at one and the same time to the same group of peoples. So why do we say this? Because one of the major proofs concerns the ends of the earth, the lost in tribes being at the geographical extremities. So you may say this is fair enough. The peoples we identify as belong to the lost in tribes are at the geographical extremities, are at the ends of the earth. But we also found other areas at the ends of the earth. Japan is at the ends of the earth. Siberia, the eastern coast of Siberia are at the ends of the earth. The Antarctica is at the ends of the earth. There are a lot of islands in the Pacific Ocean that can also be considered at the ends of the earth. We have to find areas where the other proofs also apply, together with the ends of the earth, that is the Atlantic Ocean, that is mainly to the north and to the west. That is, in ancient times, have been associated with fires and islands. And another proof we find in Isaiah 49:12. Isaiah 49:12 surely these shall come from afar, these from the north and the west, and these from the land of Sinim. And Isaiah 41:9, it says, beginning in Isaiah 49:8-9, it says, "For you, Israel, are my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the descendants of Abraham, my friend, you whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called from its farthest regions." That is how it's translated, farthest regions. But this word farthest regions, Atzeleia, actually means best and most noble places. And this is what the Hebrew says, or means. Atzeleia means the best places. In other words, they have to be at the ends of the earth, but the best places at the ends of the earth, the areas with the most salubrious climates, the most productive and invigorating environments. And so this fits these areas that we are speaking of. It said to you, "You my servant I have chosen, you have not cast you away." Another proof we find in Obadiah 1:20. Obadiah. Obadiah tells us that the lost 10 tribes in the end times will be in a place called Zarephath. Zarephath! In Hebrew, in spoken Hebrew, colloquial Hebrew, is a name applied to France, and that is what the area Obadiah is referring to. Obadiah chapter 1 verse 20 says, "The captives of this host of the children of Israel shall possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath. The captives of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad shall possess the cities of the south." So we have this verse, and this verse in the Hebrew, Geluta Helazeh Asher Kananim Ad Zarephath. In other words, it says that this first exile, the first exile was the lost 10 tribes. Here we are basing ourselves or using the clarification of rabbinical commentators, but do fit the Hebrew text. In other words, not only do we have a rabbinical opinion backing us up in this interpretation, but also fits the simple text of the Hebrew when you look at it closely. It is saying, in effect, this first exile, that is the first exile of the 10 tribes. The Israelites were exiled in several times. And first of all, the lost 10 tribes are taken away in different sections of them of a short period. Then after that, more than 100 years later, the Jews were also taken away to Babylon in 3 different stages at least. And there were other exiles. But this first exile, the first exile was of the 10 tribes. And he's talking about this Geluta Helazeh, this first exile, this beginning of the exiles, Asher Zarephath, even unto France. Asher Canaanim Canaanim means Germany. in the context, because people from amongst the Canaanites did settle in Germany in that region, so it's bordering on Germany or encompassing a part of Germany, and they shall return, and they shall return together with the Jews who will have been in Zarephath meaning Spain, and so the Jews were in that region. And certain lost tribes will return together with them in the end times. Other authorities add to this. Calvin, the Protestant reformer, he quoted Jewish sources who told him that the intention here is to the Netherlands. The Abarbanel, a great Jewish commentator who lived in the 1490s at the time when Columbus discovered America, and he himself was an advisor to the kings of Spain and Portugal and to other regions in his age, and he was very learned. He said the term Zarephath referred to not only to France but also to the England, and that there too the exiles were to be found. Another proof we have in the geographical sense concerns dolmens, megalithic monuments. Now we all know what dolmens are. Dolmens are ancient monuments. The name dolmen is a French word, a Breton word, from France, from Brittany, meaning table, and that is what dolmens in the basic sense are. They were upright pillars of stone, and over these pillars were placed other very large stones to sit on top of the pillars like a table. And often all around this table-like structure were piled up rocks and stones known as cairns, C-A-I-R-N, cairn, or cairns in the plural. Jeremiah 31:20 or 21, it depends upon which version you have, but it says, set up signposts, make landmarks. Jeremiah 31:20 or Jeremiah 31:21, set up signposts, make landmarks, set your heart toward the highway, the way in which you went. Turn back, O version of Israel, turn back to these your cities. That is how it is translated, and according to the context and the simple meaning of the verse, Jeremiah is turning towards the lost 10 tribes in his time. Ephraim, he speaks about Ephraim representing the lost 10 tribes in the same passage, and they are being exhorted to set themselves up landmarks and signposts, and in order that they will be able to tell the way they migrated, where they came from, in order that they may return in the end times. Turn back to these your cities, O Virgin of Israel. In the Hebrew, the word translated as signposts is zionim, and waymarks is tamarorim, and according to the rabbinical commentators, the intention here is to pillars with piles of stones placed around them, exactly the same as the dolmens and the cairns were. And we find these monuments, we find them throughout the British Isles, in Ireland, we find them in Ireland, in Scotland, in England, in Cornwall. We also find them in Brittany, in France, and in Spain, in other areas, and up into the Scandinavia and Denmark, throughout Scandinavia. We find them in select regions, and they do describe a pathway of migration. And this is agreed to. And they have a common culture or element connecting them. And also, in the past, they were associated with Celtic religion and with the Druid faith. The Druid faith, they worshipped Baal, worshipped Canaanite gods, but also had Hebraic customs, because the lost 10 tribes, when they went into exile, had adopted the ways of the nations around them. They had taken up Canaanite practices whilst keeping some of their Hebraic customs with them, and this is what we do still find amongst the Western peoples, especially the Celtic peoples and the Druid religion, and they use these dolmens. They set them up, and these dolmens do trace a pathway of migration. They go back, they go through the Caucasus Mountains, all through the Mediterranean Sea, North Africa and Malta and so on, all the way back to the land of Israel, and it is agreed that the oldest specimens of these monuments are to be found in the land of Israel area. That is where they originated. And it proves there is a pathway of migration, just as Jeremiah spoke of. There is one problem that archaeologists try and date these dolmens to way back 20,000 BCE, all kinds of quite fantastically remote dates, whereas the Lost tribes were only exiled in 700 BCE, at the very latest, if not less than that. But we have our own appreciation of this subject. We think that the dating and the finds have been misinterpreted, and we apply this to all of studies of Asian history. It is an evolved subject, a complicated subject. It is perhaps in some way the strongest proof we have, and we should concentrate on it more. But for the moment, we may take cognizance of it, but also rely on the other proofs together with this. We shall go on and discuss the further proofs, and there are a lot of them. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.